Coming off of one of the worst losses in program history, the Cardinals now turn their attention to the Pittsburgh Panthers for Senior Day. How can Louisville end up victorious on Saturday? Well, we'll answer that on today's episode of Locked on Louisville.
You are Locked on Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked on Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering the university, third year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Guys, today's episode of the show brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joining us, it's about time he's been back, but he's back with us. Former Louisville recruiting assistant Grant Mulligan, G-Money in the studio. What's up, man?
Man, I apologize for my absence. First week, I was in California, the Breeders' Cup. It was a great time in the home of our 7-3, former home of our 7-3 Chargers. It was a great time. He didn't ask me to come on last week, so don't put that one all on me. So that's not all me.
Probably
regardless.
I was too depressed. Louisville with one of the worst losses in program history against Stanford. They move forward. They turn their attention to the last home game of the year, the Pittsburgh Panthers. Very interesting matchup there with Pat Narduzzi's team. We'll talk about the keys to victory. And then it's buy, sell Thursday, two that the fans have introduced that we will answer about the next two games, and then one from each of us. So, Grant, this is a pretty interesting game. Pittsburgh started out the year basically on fire at 7-0. I mentioned that I wasn't a believer of them because of their strength of schedule. And since, it looks like, if we're taking victory laps, let me take one before you do and say that it seems like I was right about Pittsburgh. They are 7-3. They've lost their last three, obviously. Eli Holstein didn't play against Clemson, so it was a very close loss there, but still 7-3. When you look at this matchup, what do you feel like Louisville needs to do or they can't do against the Pittsburgh Panthers?
First, I want to say something. You took a victory lap on something. Now it's time
for
me.
Go ahead.
Not against you, Dalton, but on the fans of this show who doubted me when week in and week out I said that this would be the year that Louisville walks in to Death Valley Jr. and takes it from Clemson. And we did just that. Forget what just happened. I had a whole other rant that I was about to do in addition when we beat Stanford, and then we didn't. So that embarrassed me a little bit. But I was right because no one else believed. And I said we would go and we would beat Clemson. And so that's a victory lap I need to take. Now, let's go to the topic at hand. Like I said, Pittsburgh played it closer. Played closer with Clemson, then I think it would have been an even closer game, perhaps. One that could have even gone their direction. Should Eli Holstein should have played.
I think they would have won had he played.
I think they would have as well. And he's a guy who I talked about whenever we initially did my quarterback rankings, who I said who could be a great riser in the rankings. I think he's done just that. Of course, he's had some freshman moments of a young player who still has a game ahead of him, but he's shown a lot of promise. He's clearly very talented. It's easy to see why he was initially committed to Alabama and then ended up at Pitt. So he is, provided he is healthy and ready. Is he?
That's the interesting thing. Like, I've looked at it, and this, for all transparency, for these purposes, this show is being recorded on Wednesday afternoon, and up to this point, guys, we don't really have any idea. He was a game time decision against Clemson, so it's led to believe that, on the surface, he should be ready, but there hasn't been any word. So you imagine that this is just gamesmanship by Pittsburgh, and we'll find something out early on Saturday. But regardless, I do think that both quarterbacks pose a threat to this team.
They certainly do. I would be more reluctant to face Holstein. I think he's had a great year, great start to his career so far. But I'm more surprised about the Virginia loss for them. I didn't see Pittsburgh as being able to rattle off that many wins early as they were, which still is better than what we can say as Louisville fans because they took care of business against inferior teams. And the only one that really surprised me was the loss to Virginia. The SMU is not too shocking. They're extremely high-powered offense. They're ranked for a reason and currently sit at the top of the conference. We learned the hard way on that one. They look a lot better. Not to get too much on the SMU. I thought that they would be good for completely different reasons than they ended up being good. So
I was really high on SMU, and people were like, after their first loss, everybody's like, "Do you feel stupid?" And initially, I was like, "Kind of," and now I'm looking back on it, it's like, "Where's my victory lap?" But I think something that we saw in that SMU game, something that we saw in the Virginia game, something that we saw literally in every game this season outside of maybe Clemson, and something that I feel like we can't see against Pittsburgh if Louisville wants to win. And I think it was one of the main reasons that we don't talk about as to why Stanford won. And that's defending the pass in the middle of the field between, the hash marks. That's sort of been what offenses have just continually attacked Louisville over and over and over again. And Pittsburgh, depending on if Eli plays or not, I mean, they're a top 20 passing offense up until this point. They like to throw the football. They've got a quarterback that can sling it. Shout out to G Money for calling that. They've got some good receivers, Kanata Mupfield and, Gavin Bartholomew's a nice tight end that is able to sort of fill that role in the middle of the field. For whatever reason, Louisville just hasn't been able to have any answers. And if you want to beat Pittsburgh, you have to show that you can make some adjustments and be able to sort of, I'm not going to say neutralize because I'm not sure that they're going to be able to, but just sort of limit that Pittsburgh passing offense because that's how they score their points is throwing the football.
And I want to touch on Bartholomew as a player that I think could definitely pose a threat to this offense or to our defense for exactly the reason that you said. He is a threat over the middle of the field. He's one of the best tight ends, very experienced tight end. I think he should be making an appearance in the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, or he was on the Senior Bowl watch list coming into the season. One of the best tight ends, and with the ability to spread the ball around in this Pittsburgh offense and just now we're dealing with more attrition at cornerback. Obviously, we know what happened at the end of the game against Stanford and then what proceeded to happen on Sunday. Won't touch on it.
Let me just go ahead and say that because I haven't mentioned that on the show yet, Grant, and there will be some people that ask about it. Yes, there were some charges made against Tayon Holloway, and no, we're not going to comment on it. It's a legal issue. There's no reason for me to speculate or comment on it. So I just want to go ahead and get that out of the way. So please continue. My apologies.
But no, I agree. I'm not to comment on the situation whatsoever, but it goes without saying we will be without him. Yeah. And there's been some guys on the outside and even on the inside that haven't stepped up in pass coverage like I thought. Mm-hmm. I thought we would see a much bigger season this year from Aaron Williams, and so far he hasn't really been able to make much of an impact at all, mostly by virtue of rotation. He hasn't seen a whole lot of minutes, a whole lot of snaps. So then this could be the opportunity for a guy like that to come in and fill the void behind Corey Thornton. But right now, with the way that the secondaries played outside of Quincy Riley, and even Quincy Riley has had some uncharacteristic moments this season. Honestly, I think maybe overcompensating for some of the other deficiencies on the defense. He knows that a lot of it's on his hands. Great player. He'll do fantastic at the next level. But I think attrition at corner is going to be a real concern for us coming in one of the best passing offenses. And I think we're going to have to win in a shootout here. We're going to have to minimize mistakes on offense. We're going to have to take full advantage of our drives. And possibly a great strategy to do this is to keep Pittsburgh's offense off the field as much as possible. If we're able to get Isaac Brown back, and we had the breakout of Duke Watson, great for him. Very, very glad to see it. I knew he had it in him. But that's two young backs. If we can use them to churn clock, keep the run game going, and minimize offensive possessions by Pittsburgh, perhaps keep away ball or win by shootout is our best chance. I just do not feel great about this defense against that passing attack, especially given the attrition at corner.
Well, not only that, I mean, if they would have just been respectable against Stanford, I think you're coming into this game more respectably because they're just so unpredictable right now. One thing, as we kind of conclude this segment, Pittsburgh's second leading receiver is Desmond Reid, their running back. He's got around 500 receiving yards, so he is definitely a huge portion of that receiving attack because they use all the positions, running back, tight end, and wide receiver. It's definitely a balanced attack. But I'll be honest with you, judging by our buy-sell segment that's coming up, there's some Louisville fans that they've got some optimism about this game, some really high optimism about this game. And I'll explain what I mean when we come back on today's episode of Locked on Louisville. Cardinal fans, look, holidays are coming up. Christmas is right around the corner. Are you missing someone dearly this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Do your loved ones live far away, but you wish they could join you? Well, we've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to easily share via the free Skyline mobile app or email. There's no account or subscription required. And the touchscreen is a game changer. You can swipe through the photos and tap to see new photos sent. Tap the heart button to say thank you to the sender. Now is a special limited time offer for our listeners. You can get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. And before we get into the next segment, I do want to tell you about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, FanDuel. Look, guys, you will find out here in just a second when we discuss it. Louisville currently is an 8-point favorite over Pittsburgh at the moment, and I would imagine that has a large portion to do with Eli Holstein's availability. FanDuel remains America's #1 sportsbook, and new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And into the second segment with former Louisville recruiting assistant Grant Mulligan, good friend of the show. Grant, we're into the first buy-sell that we've had in a little while, but some really good questions. The first buy-sell, it's an optimistic one. It's one that I sat here and I had to go back and look at the spread, because when they said this, the buy-sell was, I think it's going to be just like last year. I'm reading the buy-sell verbatim. I think this is going to be just like last year, where Louisville has a key victory. They follow it up with a big-time loss, and then they follow that up with a good win. I think they'll do that again this year. I think Louisville will beat Pittsburgh by double digits. Buy, sell, Grant. The spread right now is -8 in favor of the Cardinals. Vegas is uncomfortably close at times. Do you think you're going to buy this?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to sell it as much as I want to, and I feel like I would be a lot more confident coming off the Stanford if we had come out with a win, or if we had shown better defensively there. And it's not to say that I don't think Louisville can or will win this game. It's just that I think with the offensive firepower that they have and the way that our defense has been playing as of late, especially versus the past, and even if Holstein isn't playing, Yarnell has shown more than capable of engineering this offense, and he's 3 years in. He's spot played all throughout those 3 years. He has fill-in experience for multiple years. So I see this being a much closer game. If we're talking single touchdown, I'd be pretty likely to buy that. But I think this is going to be a dogfight straight to the end. I think this is going to be trading possessions, trading touchdowns, trading scores. I don't feel comfortable with a double-digit win here, even though I fully believe in Brahman coming with a bounce back. But this Pitt team is a lot tougher than the Stanford team we just played. And if we are not coming with attitude on defense and amending the mistakes we made last week, then this one could get away from us in a hurry, because this is an offense that can really put up yards and really put up points. So I'm selling. I think it's close. I think we win. I'd say it's a 3 to 7 point win, single possession.
I mean, I went back and forth on this, just like this team has gone back and forth on this season. You're 10 games in. You know what a team is 10 games into the season. And unfortunately for Louisville, this team is wildly inconsistent. Outside of Clemson, you haven't seen a profound, without a doubt, dominant victory. Your victories have been, sort of iffy. They have been victories, but they haven't been all that convincing. Like Georgia Tech had some issues, Virginia, Boston College, the list goes on, right? So Louisville has not had all that many convincing wins to suggest to me that they're going to have a convincing win against Pittsburgh. I mean, can it happen? Yeah, we saw it happen 3 weeks ago, but we also saw a week ago the other type of Louisville team that you can see. Louisville, just outside of one quarter against a Power 5 team, hasn't been good in the first quarter this year. And I mean, I'm optimistically hoping that trend doesn't happen on Saturday, but people tell you who they are to the point that you kind of just have to believe them. So I'm going to sell this. I'm like Grant. I'm hoping Louisville wins. But if they do, I think it's close. Now, can they win by 10? Yeah, but I can't sit here with a straight face and tell you for certain that that's going to happen. So moving on to our next one, I think that this is a pretty interesting, thought-provoking one. Pittsburgh, I feel like, is a better team on the field, but with Louisville having not beaten Kentucky since 2017 and seemingly it being a mental hurdle, not only for this program, but for this university, buy, sell the Kentucky game is a tougher test than the Pittsburgh game on the field.
Buy all the way to the bank. Buy that with ease. The mentality is exactly right. It doesn't matter what the record is in the Stoops era, because this team will get up for us. And if we fall asleep like we did against an inferior team, Stanford, then they will absolutely take advantage of it. Despite the fact that it hasn't shown in the win column, Kentucky has a very stout defense that has held some really good offenses to a lot lower than what they're accustomed to scoring. They have a lot of really talented NFL-level players on that defense. Their offense is very shaky, but our defense, is it in position to keep them out of it? It's more of a situation where you hope that UK's offense beats itself enough, and that's entirely possible. But it just seems like every year we come in, a lot of those issues for UK iron themselves out magically for 3 hours against us on a Saturday. And that's just the kind of team and the kind of game that Mark Stoops is going to coach against us. So I think the final game of the season, of the regular season against Kentucky, and that's no disrespect to Pittsburgh at all. I think they've had a really good season.
Yeah, no, this really doesn't have anything to do with Pittsburgh, I feel.
The Kentucky game, regardless of what the records look like for either of us at the end of the season, is going to be much harder than Pittsburgh, I think, even with their struggling offense.
When Kentucky beat Louisville last year, I mentioned that I made the comment, and this I think it's because of the negative connotation that it gives off, but I said Louisville is Kentucky's Super Bowl, and that they treat this game like it is the end of the world if they lose. And the way that I said it, people took it like it was disrespectful, but I meant it as a compliment. Because truthfully, I envy how well Kentucky mentally gets ready for this game. And I felt like Louisville was the better team last year, but they made too many mental mistakes. Like, Kentucky does not make many mistakes against Louisville. Like, mentally, whatever happens, it's admirable that a season can go as bad as it has for Kentucky at times. But that last game of the year, it's like, it doesn't matter. It's like they zone all of it out and they're laser focused, and you have to play a really good game no matter how good that Kentucky team is. That's a compliment to Stoops and company. It's not meant as a slight. So when I say that, it applies for this year as well. This is one of the worst Kentucky teams that he's had, since the teams started getting good, like, minus his first couple of years. He's had this team's bad. They're going to end with, at the very most, 5 wins. And that's if they beat they have to beat
us.
They have to beat us. They're not going to beat Texas at Texas. If they do, then I don't know what to say, dude. You throw your hands in the air and be like, I wish. But yeah, I'm buying this. I'm buying this easily because, first of all, I think Stoops knows that he can't afford to lose this game. This is a game that he can't afford. I feel like both coaches, there's a lot on the table for both of these coaches right now heading into the offseason, and whichever one loses, the outside noise is going to be deafening. So I think there's a lot of pressure, and in turn, that leads to the buy sell. I think that these were two easy buy sells that were introduced by the fans. When we come back and bring in our buy sells, let's hope it's a little bit more thought provoking, and I hope that mine is. I think that this is one of my better buy sells of the season, and I hope that you will not just completely blow that idea up when we come back on this Thursday edition of Locked on Louisville. Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked on Louisville your first listen of the day. At this time, you need to tune into Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? It's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You'll just pick more than or less than on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. If you sign up, you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So there you go. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off when you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks runs the game. And into this final segment on this Thursday edition of the Locked on Louisville podcast, one of the last buy sells of the regular season. It's been it feels like it was just yesterday when Grant Money or G Money and I were on the graveyard shift of ESPN Louisville's 24-hour kickoff. You remember that, recording that at 7 a.m. and then having it play at 3 a.m. and people text me, "Why are you up right now?" I'm not, but Grant, floor is yours, man. I'll let you go first. I feel like I'm ahead in the head-to-head this season. By
somebody's got to tab you.
Very slightly.
Seems like a baseless.
Now. My first buy sell out of the gate was terrible. People told me the haters on this show were very clear to tell me that I was wrong and my buy sells sucked. But I made up for it. I feel like I'm slightly in the lead. But let's see if you can win today's buy sell, Grant. Go ahead and propose your situational hypothetical to me, sir.
I will propose it, but I want to say I want to tabulate the votes here on that one because that's you're making serious accusations.
The generational haters that are just committed to slandering under every episode.
That's crazy.
Can you channel that energy into going back to every other buy sell and
you're about to make me
formulating the tallies, please?
You're about to make me. You're about to make me. Regardless, my buy sell is an off-season buy sell. I think, or buy sell, Louisville will take fewer transfers than they have in the past 2 years, but the average rating will be higher than the 2. So I'm saying we are going to go for a quantity over quality transfer class. I think.
Do you have the quantities for reference?
So the quantity, yeah. All right, I'll pull it back up. I did have we took 20 last year. We took 32. Then that's just straight off the bat. That's not with people leaving. So obviously some of the guys never played. Like Penny Boone never played. Amari counts into that too. He left and then came back. So does he really count? I think the real number comes somewhere like 27, 28 on that year. And then let me look back just one more year. 23 had 25.
You would think for someone who has a buy sell segment that they would have their information in front of them.
I had one of them.
I guess I'm asking.
You asked the question, man.
I'm just playing with you.
We had 25 in 2023's first year. We had 25, and then we had 32. Some of them left, and it ended up being more like around the same, like 26, 27. I'm
going to sell it. I think it's simple for me, and here's why. Louisville had 15 high school enrollees last year, and they had a considerable amount of returning players. You're losing a good amount of those players because they run out of eligibility. You're going to lose some other players to transfer, and Louisville currently has 12 commitments. They're not doing a ton of 2025 high school recruiting as it seems, and I would almost guarantee that won't be the end of the attrition in that class. So I think you're going to have to replace more next season. Now, I think that for the most part, you're going to see a higher average, but I think that they're going to try to fill in some of the high school deficiencies by going out. And here's my prediction. They're going to go out and get some of the higher rated guys of the past couple classes that really haven't played much that they might be able to get on a discount and bank on the potential. But I do think you're going to see that number still higher. And I wish you were, I hope you're going to be correct. But with the way that this roster's been constructed and with high school recruiting, I don't like to use the word neglected, but definitely not prioritized as much as transfer portal. I don't think you're going to have so many spots to fill, because I don't think, your graduating guys are going to be it. Like, I do think you're going to lose some players to transfer as well.
I mean, that's not in today's college football. You can't ever think you're not going to lose anybody to transfer. It's not realistic. It's not where we're at in the college football landscape. Everyone loses someone to transfers.
Sure.
The reason why I say this, and the reason why I would buy it, and I understand all of your points because I started on that side, but when we get into a season like this, I think that you can look around the league and there are fundamental differences between the teams who are near the top and Louisville, because there is so much going on with the high school recruiting. But there's a lot of players who are high-level impact transfers who are absolutely worth the price of admission, so to speak.
Oh,
and I don't think Rom is blind to the fact, and I think it's entirely possible how I feel, it's entirely my feeling, that he's going to look around the league and say, I think the way to go about this is to not do as much banking on potential and to shell out for production.
I hope that's the case, but I'm saying from a number standpoint, like you look the last couple off seasons, you're losing more this off season because some of those returning guys that you banked on last couple of years, they're gone. Like Gelati and Riley, they're going to the NFL draft. Some other players that you brought in, you brought in some other guys. Now some of the transfer you brought in are multiple year guys, and they'll be back. But I do think you're going to lose some more to the portal as well. So I want to do what you're talking about. I'm just saying from a logistical standpoint, I'm not sure that it's feasible because you're going to have to replace about 90% of your production. So it's going to be tough in my opinion. So
just say my question sucks, man.
Huh?
Just say my question sucks, man. Say it out. Just say it outright.
It doesn't suck. That's how I feel, because I can see someone else looking at this the way you would. I just think that's the way it's going to go on. My buy sell, because we're kind of running out of time. Louisville has allowed 30 points only, or over 30 points only three times this season. Notre Dame, Stanford, and Miami. My buy sell is that Louisville will have to score over 30 points to beat Pittsburgh. Anything under 30 and they will lose.
100%. I buy that 100%. I think we have to score 30. I think we're probably going to have to score 35 to win. I think we're going to have an offensive performance resembling of what we were able to do against Stanford. Again, we scored exactly 35. So I think we're going to have to do that again. I think we're going to have to get 32 or 35 to win this game. I think that this is a prolific passing offense that is built to exploit our weaknesses. I don't see them scoring any less than 28. So maybe we hold them a touch below 30. But
it's just weird because they scored 25 against SMU, 19 against Virginia, and 20 against Clemson. Now, I'm not saying that Louisville is definitively a better defense than any of those three, but at the same time, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they play better opposition, and it's pretty clear that those passing numbers aren't as elite as they were the first 7 weeks. But
that's true. But they also scored 20 against Clemson with Yarnell and not Holstein.
Yeah. What about this way? What about if Yarnell plays? Do you think they still have to score over 30 to win?
I just don't trust our defense, because I think that if
after last week, I mean, Stanford's offense was, let's just, for lack of better terms, # not good. And they did whatever they wanted to do.
And it wasn't even by spamming Alec Ayamana either, which I thought is how they would beat us because I think he's like a dude, like he's going to be a real
fantastic.
NFL dude.
He's fantastic.
But he wasn't even the dude who cooked us. Like he contributed for
it's
sure.
Always some dude that you don't think of. Like it's never the star that cooks you. It's always, I don't want to call it like the supporting cast, but I mean it is what it is. But I thought it sounded better. The buy sell sounded better when I was thinking of it.
I thought mine the same thing too, man. It's all right.
But it's just, it goes to think that like, I think that that's where the fan base is right now. Like there's so many polarizingly different thoughts on the future of this program.
100%.
In terms of like how they're addressing the portal and the high school ranks, how Jeff Brom is, is faring after, or going into the postseason of year 2. So nonetheless, I want you all, are you buying or selling these? Are you buying and selling the 2 before? Let's get some interaction. Comment in the YouTube comments below. But that is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, unfortunately, discussing some rough basketball news and what it means for your Cardinals moving forward and much more. We'll see you back here tomorrow.